You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 167 of Teach Better Talk. My name is Ray Hewart, and I am with my hashtag TeamRae friend, Jeff Gargis. How are you, Jeff?
Oh, I like it. Hashtag TeamRae, huh?
I know you're hashtag TeamRae. It's good.
You know, I probably am. I actually think, so you're referencing like some stuff that's going on social media, but then also I went ahead and made the shirts over at teachbetterswag.com that you can get a hashtag TeamJeff or hashtag TeamRae shirt. I actually consider just making a hashtag Michelle or Team Michelle shirt and just putting up there, because not everyone knows Michelle, but like Michelle runs everything really in the reality of the world. But
after this episode, we'll need a hashtag Team Becky.
Hashtag Team Becky, yeah. We're gonna need a hashtag Team Becky. That's fun stuff. So
we'll talk more about that later in the episode. Hear the whole story of that.
I am definitely hashtag TeamRae. But yeah, so 167. I was just thinking about that. I was pushing out the 166 episode, and I was like, that's a lot of freaking episodes.
Yeah, it is.
And that doesn't count any of the bonus episodes that we're putting out. 5 extra bonus episodes every week for the last 4 weeks. So 7 episodes every week. And that's pretty awesome. I'm pretty pumped about that.
I did have a concern with these daily drop-ins that we're doing that are becoming bonus episodes on Teach Better Talk. I'm like, what if we run out of things to talk about? We've been having guests on our daily drop-ins. What if for some reason like those run out? And then I was looking, our daily drop-ins are scheduled for the next 3.5 weeks. So we have good people coming on and joining us for our daily drop-in.
Oh, really? We're booked out that far with guests coming on that?
Far.
Oh, that's awesome. If you're listening and you're not in the daily drop-ins, go to teachbettergroup.com or look up Teach Better Team on Facebook. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern time. Every day, Monday through Friday, you jump in. It's live. You can get it here, obviously, on the bonus episode. If you listen, you probably listen to them. We can get it on YouTube, but that's where you can go and get in the action. They're live. Ask question, comment, and get into the conversation there. But if you would like to come on and join us for an episode, that'd be awesome too.
You totally should. Come join us. I'd love to interview you. I would love to interview one of our listeners and hear about what they're doing in education and talk about tips and tricks. Totally the place to do it.
And everything right now is just focused on we're all in this really unique time, this very challenging time. We want to know what are you doing? How are you getting through it? What's changed? What's the same? How are you finding your new normal, and how are you interacting with everyone? So reach out to us. We're on Twitter, so you can find us there. That'd be awesome. So super cool. Ray, can we go ahead? You got your finger like you're saying you got something to say.
Well, I was going to do the transition, but it sounds like you were going to do it too. So go ahead, Jeff Gargis. What would you like to talk about today?
I was going to see if we could highlight someone. I like when we highlight someone. So can we highlight someone? Can we highlight someone that's on TeamRae? Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Okay. Mark Heller.
He is TeamRae, isn't he?
He's totally TeamRae. He talked about it during our mastermind session that we had for administration last week.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, and Mark's been awesome in his masterminds. We have another one tomorrow, actually, on Tuesday, 20th. Anyway, we'll do more of those too. But yeah, the admin mastermind has been really cool. Mark has been a huge contributor in that. Brilliant mind. I would look past the fact that he's TeamRae. I actually think Mark might be hashtag Team Teach Better Team. Honestly, sure. Just everyone together. But I think I may be hashtag Team Heller.
It's true.
Just saying.
For those of you who don't know Mark, he is an amazing principal over in Illinois, Plano, Illinois, and he's doing great things with his staff, his middle school staff. I really love his approach. I think he's really dedicated to supporting his teachers, and a lot of the support he's providing is not only through, actually just being in their classroom, getting to know them, building relationships with the staff, but I see him doing so much professional development support that is truly off of the voices of their teachers, them sharing what they want to learn about and him finding a way to bring new environments for learning for them. So Mark is somebody that I've been connected with for a while. We're on a board together for the Association of Middle Grade Schools for Illinois and a lot of different stuff, but he's a good guy and he's adding so much value in those administrator masterminds, because it's really just an environment where principals are sharing and asking questions and kind of like providing resources to each other. And he is chock full of tidbits and good questions.
Yeah. Do you have his Twitter handle? Can you shout that out? Look that up real quick while I say something that I love about Mark, which is the fact that I think something really, really cool about Mark is like such a visionary for what he's trying to do in his school. He's thinking, I mean, he's always like 6 to 18 months ahead of where he is. Like he's there, he's present, he's thinking about what is, but he's always thinking, okay, what happens now? What does this look like in 3 months and 6 months and 12 months and 18 months? Where are we going? What are we trying to do? And how does what we're doing right now today impact where we're trying to go and what we're trying to get done? It's really, really cool getting to work with Mark and talk with him and hear what he's trying to do. And I think you touched on too, that and all of that revolves around what he's hearing from his teachers, what they're wanting, what they need, and that support. So big shout out to him. You got his handle? What is it? I always forget it.
His handle is mheller2115.
That's what it's 2115. mheller2115. So shout out to you, Mark. We love you. Go follow him, connect with him, learn from him, grow with him. It's awesome.
I do want to say, though, Mark was foolish enough to tell me one time that he is a podcast listener of Teach Better Talk, but hates the intro, and he always just wants to get to the guest. So I'm glad to put up this introduction to talk about him, because he's always like, Jeff Ray, stop talking. Who are you interviewing?
Yeah. What now, Mark? Huh? What now? He probably already skipped. He probably hasn't heard this because he just skipped.
It's
he
true.
Skipped right ahead.
Sorry, Mark.
Well, for Mark's sake, let's talk about the episode that we just recorded. This was fun. So we had to kind of, not gonna lie, we had to get this one on the fly because we had to move some things around, and we're like, hey, has Becky been on the podcast? We're like, how has Becky not been on the podcast? What's that?
She's like my favorite human. I can't believe she's not on the podcast.
Well, and you two kind of talk about how we get into that in that episode, how you feel like she's been around a lot longer than she has been with the team. And I think that's why we were both like, she had to have been on the podcast, hasn't she? But anyway, so Becky Thal she's a 5th grade teacher. She's also a part of the Teach Better team. She does so much stuff for us. She blogs and creates content. She's on a lot of those. She's in the drop-ins. She's helping run Mastery Chat. Actually, she's running Mastery Chat in so many ways.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the growth that I've seen in her, like in her just ability, like her willingness to just jump at anything new, just in the last 6 to 8 months, is amazing. And she's got a really cool story. She touches on it. I'm gonna let her touch on it, like how she got an education, like what her background is actually in, and how she looks at things. I really enjoy this episode. It's kind of cool to dive into her head a little bit more. She does tell the story of how she became part of the team and joined the family, so that's fun. And
I have to say, though, it's really fun to interview somebody who's in like your immediate circle. Like I truly believe that you become the top 5 people that you surround yourself with. Becky is like on speed dial. I so respect her decision, her point of view all the time. I always go to her. So I'm so thrilled that she's finally being featured on Teach Better Talk.
And she's also just fun.
Yes.
You can't not smile when you're around her, whether virtually or not. Like, so this is an awesome episode. I'm super excited for it. So let's get into it. Episode 167 with Becky Thal.
We're going to get right back to the episode, but I wanted to make sure you had the details of what the team is continuously doing to support all of the educators that are striving to reach their students at a distance. Now, while we will continue to push out content like blogs, podcasts, free downloads, and online courses to support you, we wanted to do more. So you can meet our team live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in our private Facebook group at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern for a daily drop-in. During this time, we'll be providing PD for all educators and answering your questions to make sure you feel supported. We'll meet you over in our private Facebook group. You can request to join at teachbettergroup.com or simply by searching Teach Better Team on Facebook. We'll meet you there. Now, let's get back to the episode.
All right, we're here. We are chatting with Becky Thal. And Becky, I mean, to say we're excited to have you on the podcast is probably like the understatement of the year or the decade, because we are so pumped to have you on. You've been part of our team for, almost to a year now, I think. And you are popping up. I think more and more those listening and watching know that you're popping up more and more on the Facebook group, doing live trainings. You're popping up on the blog, doing posts and things of that nature. And you do so much for our team. It's so excited to bring you on and kind of tell your story and hear more about you on this episode. So I'm excited about that. Before we dive too far in, how are you feeling right now?
I'm doing pretty good. Well, it's a Friday. So I'm super excited for the weekend, even though we're in quarantine here. I'm just happy to kind of, unwind a little bit. It's been rainy here, so this weekend's forecast is looking better. So I'm excited about that. But overall, you know what? I'm doing pretty good.
Becky, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. I know that Jeff said we were excited, but it's just the truth. Like, if there was anybody that I wanted to record a podcast with right now, it would be you, because I feel like chatting with you, I always get new ideas, but I also feel like we're all family. So we could just be like sitting on the couch and talking. And that's kind of how this podcast is going to go. I love it. For those listeners who may not know you, Becky, which is weird, because if you guys are a part of literally anything we do, Becky has been a part of it in some way. She is always so just willing to engage and support and do so many things for the team. But Becky, tell us a little about yourself and kind of all that you do.
Sure. My day job is I am a 5th grade math and science teacher, which I have been since 2005, maybe. That was not my first profession. I actually worked in advertising as my first job in New York City. I am located in New Jersey. I am a wife. My anniversary is actually coming up on Monday. And I have 3 children and a dog. And so I live here close to the Jersey Shore. And yes, and I am a proud member of the Teach Better team. And this is my first podcast ever. So I'm super excited to be on with you guys. And like you said, it's like a family chat. So I'm really excited. And Ray, you actually crack me up, because whenever we have like little conversations now, or you leave me Vox messages, you're like, well, weren't you on the team when? I'm like, no, Ray.
I just believe that Becky has been around in my life since the very beginning. And so I talked to her and she's like, Ray, I love you, but I have no idea what you're talking about. It's out of love, Becky, I swear.
I know it is. I'm like, well, that's so nice that they feel like it's one of 2 things. They're either happy because they feel I've been around forever. They're like, oh my God, this woman feels like she's been around forever. So I'm glad it's the first one.
I love it. I'm pumped that we're the first podcast. So first of many is what I'm guessing. Also, something cool that you didn't realize is that this is actually coming. This episode is actually releasing on Monday, so on your anniversary. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
happy anniversary.
Thank you. Actually, ironically, my husband just came up a little while ago, and he handed me a card addressed to us from the Teach Better team, and he said, oh, what's that? Because my name's on. He's not used to seeing his name associated with anything with the Teach Better team. And I'm like, it's an anniversary card. That's so sweet.
Aren't we sweet?
We're so sweet.
Nice job, Ray.
Okay, can we just clarify for all of our listeners? You know that Jeff and I didn't do that. That's all Jennifer Apple, who is the sweetest person on the planet and literally makes the culture of our team the magic it is.
Yes. I love it. So Becky, before we go on, I know this, or at least I know for my version, but whenever I tell the version of how Ray and I met, she always tells me I tell it wrong. So I don't want to tell the version of how you and I met and how we connected, but we're coming up, getting close to a year to when you sent me the first email.
Yep.
I would love it if you'd share with the listeners how this all happened, how you ended up becoming part of this family.
Well, and that is actually part of the question series, so I'm not going to go too far into detail. I will tell people that when I did reach out to you, which I'll lead up to in the questions, but when I did reach out to you and the team, and I had been looking at the website, and it said, for more information, and I think it was, info@teachbetterteam.com, and I sent an email, and you responded back, and I really believe this was right around the beginning of July.
Mm-hmm.
And you sent me this nice email back and said, and I'm laughing about it now because I distinctly remember what was going through my head. You said, I'm getting ready to go on vacation with my family, but I would love to connect with you. And I think it was like the week of July 15th. And I I wrote back, very, very nice. Oh, sure. Enjoy your vacation, of course, with your family, talk to you later. But in my mind, I was thinking, oh, this guy's just he's just trying to let me down easy. There is no way he's connecting with me. And sure enough, when you got back from vacation, it was that week. It was that week of July 15th. And I got an email from you and I was literally stunned. I was like, oh, wow, he actually did email me back. And since then, so many people have told me, no, Jeff Gargas is a man of his word. If he said he is going to connect with you, he is going to connect with you.
Did you hear that, Ray? Man of his word.
You're okay.
Hashtag TeamJeff. All right? Hashtag TeamJeff.
Wait, I'm sorry to sidestep. Listeners, we are having a huge problem on our team that I need you to solve. So Jeff Gargas has got out of control this week, sharing hashtag TeamJeff or hashtag TeamRae. To the point, listeners, let's talk real here. There are t-shirts that are now for sale that you may purchase. So we should go the route of, it's okay, Jeff, we don't need to be competitive, but instead you need to pick a side and you guys need to really get a t-shirt, share a hashtag. We are taking this full throttle here. So
now listen, it's
hashtag TeamRae, okay?
So it's all over at teachbetterswag.com, but I've got to be like you said, right, I got to go full disclosure here because I'm the one who runs the back of that store. I almost made yours more expensive so that fewer people would buy them and made mine like color? Always on sale.
Did you make it a bad color too?
It's black with black text. And it's like $64 for a t-shirt or something like that. And they're always sold out. Like there's none available. That way no one will ever have a picture of it. So that's how I have it set up now.
I was going to say you could use the excuse, oh, I'm sorry, we're behind on production, given everything that's going on.
Well, typically anything connected to Ray is behind on production. So she's such a slacker that anything with that hashtag on it just slows down.
Hashtag
we're getting way off topic here. And that's so not true, by the way. She's actually ridiculously efficient. It's kind of scary. Anyway, so I'm interested to hear wherever the question is that you're going to touch more on that story. But let's talk about this. So you listen to this podcast. This is your podcast too. The question that's coming up. We're talking about failure. I talk about it all the time. So share with us a story that you've had, a failure, a struggle, a challenge in your life. Tell us what happened. How did you overcome that? And then what did you take away from that experience?
Sure. So I have been, ever since I've been teaching, I've been a fifth and sixth grade math and science teacher, and started looking for other opportunities within education because I just felt I needed to challenge myself a little bit more. I also wanted to kind of go back to my roots in business. And so I wasn't 100% sure what I was looking for. It was just that I felt I needed to just kind of see what was out there. And so there was actually a math coach position in a district that is near where I live, and I decided to apply for it, and I heard back to come in for an interview. Now, this was probably the first interview I had in, I can't even tell you how many years. There was a point in my life when I worked in advertising, and advertising is a very different scene, and you were interviewing for different positions all the time. So interviewing was, something that I had become accustomed to. Well, now I had been totally out of the loop. So I had no idea what to expect, even when I got my teaching job, this was going back. I was hired by the building principal at the time. I had been student teaching in the school. She really liked me. Somebody was retiring, and I literally walked into the position. So I got very, very lucky. So like I said, I had been out of the interviewing world for a long time. And when I went to interview, and I had heard this is how interviews work now. So there was 3 or 4 women sitting around a table, and they were all asking me different questions. And I knew pretty quickly that I was not qualified probably for this particular position. And I'm not saying that to belittle myself. I just kind of felt like, I'm sure they're going to find a candidate who has a little bit more of the experience that they're looking for. But one of the things, or there was a couple of questions actually that one of the interviewers was asking me, and it really got me thinking. And she was asking me, what educational books have you read lately? And what blogs do you follow? And do you post a lot on Twitter? And I'm thinking in my head, no, and no. and I left there thinking two things. One, I definitely did not get that job. And two, I really need to step up my game. And I need to broaden my horizons, and I need to get out of my little bubble that I'm living in New Jersey and see what's out there. And I subsequently, looked at other opportunities, and there was an interview question about equity in education. And, I admittedly am in a very privileged position. I work in a very middle class district. There's one-to-one Chromebooks. That's kind of where I grew up and how I grew up. So I know that there are significant issues about equity in education, but to be able to speak about them, that was not something I could do at the time. So I took that as a learning opportunity that I needed to, like I said, up my game. And that's when I really started to get on Twitter. And I had a Twitter profile, but I wasn't doing anything with it. And so I started, I talked to a colleague of mine, and she said, you should really get involved in Twitter chats, which is, kind of funny considering now I'm so heavily involved in Mastery Chat. And, before I was like, what is a Twitter chat? And that, when I tell you, that was only a little over a year ago that all of that transpired. I mean, that's literally the time frame that we're talking. Mm-hmm. So you can make significant strides in a short period of time. And, and so that's what I did. And ultimately being on Twitter is what led me to the Teach Better team.
Yeah, which is awesome, by the way. So thank you to whoever those people were that were asking you those questions. That's what I want to say. So I love that. I love the reflection there and what that led to. And the fact that you look, Mark, it was only a year ago, and everything that's changed for you since then is really awesome to hear. So let's flip that now. Let's talk about a successful time you've had. And this can be something big or something small, but tell us what happened. Why was it a success for you? And then what did you take away from that?
Well, I really think the success is that it kind of led me to this team. And also it led me in general, it led me out of my comfort zone. So I decided I needed to take bigger steps if I wanted to make a change. I needed to take chances and maybe even apply for positions that normally, I tend to be, which I think is just kind of human nature, is a lot of people are like, oh, they would never think about me, or they would never consider me for a position. And since then, I've turned that around to say, no, I need to take a leap. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but I won't know until I try. Which is why I sent you the email, which was just like, hey, Jeff Gargas, I'd love to help out with you guys. I love your energy, which is still true to this day. And it's really what drew me in. And, and then I was kind of jumping over to Facebook and following you on Facebook and on Instagram. And I was like, wow, these guys have a great energy. And so I think that it just, now me stepping outside of if you had told me even a year ago that I would be on the Daily Drop-In live, or that I would be doing podcasts, I would have told you were crazy. And now I enjoy doing all of this. And, it's no longer outside my comfort zone. It's in my comfort zone.
Becky, I can't believe that this story that you're sharing, this transformation, is like only about a year old. I'm like shocked by this. I'm sitting here recording with my mouth open like a dork, because I mean, to be able to go that far, to be able to do all that you've done in that short period of time, I'm so inspired. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what you're doing next year, right? I mean, even just, you joking about this being your first podcast, I think it's unbelievable with your energy and everything in between that you've been able to share with education. I think this is going to become a norm for you, because you're such a natural at sharing your story. I think you're so personable, and I'm thrilled that our audience is able to connect with you in this way, because you're right. You've absolutely been putting yourself out there, and I am constantly following the work you're doing, not only because I'm your friend, but because I'm really a fan of all that you're doing, not only with the team, but truly you are an extremely strong educator. I so appreciate and respect your opinions in education. It's just amazing to me, all the things that you've been able to do. And I can't wait to see what you continue to do.
Thank you.
In terms of excitement, we always like to ask podcast guests what they're excited about right now in education. I like to phrase this like, what really fuels your fire, what keeps you going. So if I was to ask you what's really keeping you excited about education, what's your response there?
Well, of course, we keep using this term, unprecedented time, but it really is. And I am actually, yes, it has its challenges, 100%. But I am excited because I think that this will ultimately change the educational landscape on many levels. And I'm not even sure what those necessarily are, but I would say this. I like online teaching. I do. I miss being in person with my students and my colleagues, but I like online teaching. And I know I've told you guys before I was working with you, I was actually teaching Chinese students English online through an online platform. And I would log on, every weekend. And because it was in China, the hours were different. They were 12 hours ahead of me. I'm Eastern Standard Time, so they were 12 hours ahead of me. So I'd either be teaching very early in the morning or very late, at night. And so I kind of became used to being on camera live. That's a little bit of it. And so I enjoy logging on with my students now. I'm no longer doing the Chinese tutoring, but I enjoy logging on with my everyday students from my 5th grade and giving them tutorials. And it's something that, I hope in some capacity will continue in the future. I mean, I want us all to be back together, clearly, but I like online teaching. I do. And I'm curious to see what the possibilities of it are moving forward. I also really like the freedom and flexibility that I feel I have now to be creative, because I don't have, this is usually, in fact, Megan Deegan ran Mastery Chat last night. She was the host, and the whole thing was about, what are 3 words that you could use to describe usually this stretch of time between March and May. And I, half jokingly wrote full on panic and test prep mode, because we test later than most other people because we get out later. So, as I was telling both of you, we're at this point not scheduled to end school until the very end of June, literally the last week of June. So we don't test till the beginning to middle of May. And right now is like crunch time. And I am usually extraordinarily stressed about that, as most teachers in my area are. And so I like the fact that right now I'm playing around with different platforms and trying different, tools and things to engage my students. I'd normally not be able to do that if we were, if this was regular circumstances in the classroom.
Becky, I think it's interesting. I think a listener, even when I'm listening, I'm like, what do you mean you like online teaching? Like, that's so backwards from some of the ways teachers are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually would challenge our listeners. I'm challenging myself currently as I'm talking through this. I think you're just seeing positives that a lot of us are too much in the fog to see right now. Like, you embracing being on camera. I know so many teachers I've been coaching this week who are still too scared to be on camera, right? Yep. Or like, you're talking about freedom and flexibility. That is a blessing we have right now that I don't know that everyone's really taking a moment to stop, pause, and reflect on that. And so while there are so many stresses with what's going on, I love your approach in seeing these silver linings, because we can take those silver linings, and when we go back to our classrooms, those silver linings should be still elements that we try to bring with us, right? And transition into our physical classroom environment. I think that's so powerful that you're able to share that you're taking time to learn, and you're taking time to still create dynamic opportunities for students, and yet that's still going to continue when we go back and we get to see our students every day at school. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I and I've also kind of been, look, it changes every week. I'm not going to lie. I have been evolving every week with how I do things. And I'm actually asking my students, what format do you like? How do you like how this is working? What's not working for you? And they feel like we've developed a relationship where they can be pretty honest. Mm-hmm. So, I actually asked them, do you want me to give you all the work in the beginning of the week? Or do you want me to give it to you day to day? Does that help you manage your day better? And literally the poll was split. I'm not even joking. Literally down the middle. It was like 50-50. And so then I was like, oh, now what do I do? But I did come up with a solution. I said, okay, part of their work, because I do teach science and health too, I give them that in the beginning of the week. So they have, I give that to them Monday. Here's your assignments for the week. And you can do that as you please and just, have them finished if you can by Friday. The math, I'm giving them day to day.
Interesting.
So yeah, so that, that worked. We tried that starting this week because that was our first week back from spring break. So, but you have to be flexible. I mean, you really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I love that things are changing week to week because you and I have been communicating throughout this process. I've been learning so much about what you're doing and trying to adapt from what my students' needs are. And I think it's important that you're acknowledging that you're taking student choice and voice into the planning that you're providing students. It's really, really important. With that being said, you do not only amazing things for educators with the Teach Better team, but I know you also coach teachers. It's just your lifestyle. I feel like you're always providing suggestions, trying to be a helpful problem solver for people. So question 5 always has to do with advice. And, this could be advice for a new teacher, but really any teacher, any listener. What type of advice would you give a teacher right now who's striving to either persevere through remote learning and or just trying to be their best educator? What advice do they need?
I think that they should absolutely absorb as much information as they can. But I also feel that they shouldn't be afraid to offer their opinions or their ideas on things. And I remember at the Teach Better conference, I met, I believe it was Erin Hall. Is she the teacher from Rhode Island?
Yeah.
She works a lot with new teachers. And it was fascinating to talk to her. And I am a firm believer in her mission. And that is that, a lot of new teachers feel that they need to kind of sit back and, just listen and not voice what their opinion is or voice what their ideas are. And I mean, I even look at myself like, let's face it, I went to school for my master's degree in education after I left advertising, but that's been more than several years ago at this point. There's a ton of new ideas that are coming out of educational programs that are offered around the country. And I think I am willing to listen to those. And if there's teachers that are, younger than me that have good ideas, I want to hear them. And I think that particularly in this format with this online teaching, I don't want to say it's necessarily just younger teachers because it's not, but teachers that have good ideas as it relates to how to connect with students online, you should really be vocal about that and sharing your ideas. There's certainly a way to do it, but like I said, absorb as much as you can from the veterans, but also make your voice heard too.
I love it. I think that's super important. I mean, so for new teachers to understand that, yes, you should learn as much as you can, but you have so much to offer as well. Yeah. I think that's really, really important. So, all right, Becky, let's have some fun. Let's do these next 6 questions.
Okay.
Your goal, each one you're going to answer in 15 seconds or less. You ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll.
All right, what is one?
I've heard these before, so.
You should be ready. You should be a pro. Let's see how we go. Pressure's on now. What is one ed tech tool you cannot live without?
So I have to say it's all things Google for education.
Give us a book you're reading right now.
I am reading Kids Deserve It. I want to finish that because I want to get to Teachers Deserve It. That's coming out this summer. So I'm very excited for Ray and Adam Welcome. And I'm also reading Be the One by Ryan Sheehy. I'm a little bit of a slow reader. So, but you know what I'm really excited for is Teach Your Class Off by CJ.
Yeah.
I just ordered that, so I'm very excited to get started on that.
I actually just posted on our YouTube channel my excitement about that. I don't know if anybody saw that or not today, but CJ was really nice to send me a copy, and I was super pumped, and it's been getting just incredible reviews. So I made him a little video because he's my dude. So 3 great books. Love it. Who do we need to follow on Twitter or Instagram today?
Oh, just for his sheer, positivity, Don Epps.
Oh, yeah.
Don Epps EDU on Twitter. He is phenomenal, and I just love like I said, I love his positivity, especially during this time. And the Kevin J. Butler He has some awesome things that he does, even now remotely with his class. He was doing awesome things in person, but to see what he's doing remotely is unbelievable.
Those are two extremely passionate educators. I love that.
Yeah.
Give us a good YouTube channel or website for educators.
I mean, teachbetter.com. I mean, I know it sounds like a shameless plug, but really what I was drawn into, it's like I call it one-stop shopping for educators. It really is. It's, they've got, free, we've got free downloads and so much, but in terms of YouTube channels, I do like CJ Reynolds, Real Rap with Reynolds. I think he's hysterical. I love the videos that he posts. And in terms of websites, I always enjoy articles from edsurge.com and edutopia.org.
Love it. Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Okay, well, now with remote learning, I would say you need to shut it down at a certain hour. You really do. Decide what that hour is, but I wouldn't make it past 4 or 5 o'clock. Put your Chromebook or your device away, literally away, pack it away or charge it or whatever you need to do. But take a step back and also get up and move each day. As teachers, this is what's so strange. This is what's strange. We're so used to moving and walking around and walking in the halls and everything that to be sitting still for this amount of time is bizarre. So I do need to get up and walk at least a couple times a day.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see the comparison between like steps per day that teachers are taking right now compared to normally. The movement in classroom. That's a really great point, that you're moving so much just naturally in your natural environment that now you don't have that. That's definitely something to really pay attention to. All right. Sorry, I took us off there. Lastly, best piece of advice you've ever received.
I know this is going to sound like, hokey, but it comes from the Teach Better team. It really does. Be better today than you were yesterday, and be better tomorrow than you were today. It's the truth, because not every day is going to be great. Even remote learning, not every day is going to go great, but you just take that as a stepping stone for the following day.
You got to say that's gold, Jeff. Come on, that's gold.
It's absolute gold. I love that. Looking at it on my wall, I'm like, heck yeah, she nailed it.
It's so interesting. I mean, I use that phrase not only for, the teachers we're working with, but I use it for my own students. Like, you just need to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday and a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. We're always giving today's best. It's so important. I love that, Becky. I'm so glad you shared that.
And it only has to be, like you said, it only has to be a small change. It doesn't have to be some major earth-shattering shift. It just any small change that you do, that you feel in your heart, even if nobody else notices but knowing that you did something better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was actually just on Brad's podcast. What was his podcast? Planning Period.
Planning Period, yeah.
Planning Period podcast. Guys, go listen to that. He is
great podcast.
An awesome guy. I really like Brad. But we phrased it, we were talking about this quote, because I said that this was a piece of advice I really love too. And we were talking about just be a smidgen better. It doesn't need to be overwhelming. A lot of people choose not to grow because it's scary. It seems like a big task. We can't follow through. Guys, we're just talking about a little smidgen, right? Just a little smidgen.
Yeah. Well, like I said, even if you know yourself that you did something better, like, and I know we relate a lot to, but maybe it's that you just, in this remote learning environment, maybe it's that you just reached out to a student who you might be frustrated with because you either haven't heard from her, but maybe you reached out and just said, hey, how are you doing? Just want to see how you're doing. And you know that, that's something that normally you may not have done, but you did it. And that's being better.
Yeah.
I love it. I was just on last night, had the honor of being interviewed by Kelly Croy on the Wired Educator podcast. Shout out to him. Amazing dude. But we were talking about the same, we talked about that as well, about the better and being just a little bit. My thing is that, like, if you have that mindset, you're already better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you may not even be able to pinpoint what you did today to be better or what you have planned for tomorrow to be better, but if you're at least thinking about it, you're already there. You're already taking the first step, which means you're already better than you were. So that's, I love Smidgen. That's so spot on.
Jeff, can we talk about that a little bit more? Could you be a little bit better? Nobody wants to be #TeamJeff. You just need to be a little bit better. Because, #TeamRae is just going to be the win here. Sorry.
Becky, Ray keeps forgetting who edits the podcast. That's getting cut.
I have to say, so I should.
We can have on the back of your shirt, smidgen. #smidgen.
#just a smidgen. I think that's good. This is going to come out Monday. We have another administrator mastermind on Tuesday. So if you want to participate in our administrator mastermind, you can go register for that at teachbetter.com/mastermind. But that's, I think, where this started. And TeamRae was the most popular choice during that mastermind. So if you're TeamJeff, he might need you in there submitting the votes.
It actually started a long time before. Neil Gupta brought this up like forever, like months ago to me, saying, he goes, hey, I don't know if you're aware, but like there's like this thing. And I'm like, what thing? He goes, it's like this TeamJeff, TeamRae. I'm like, really? He goes, oh yeah, it's out there. And I think Becky Snexter was a part of it too. I think she's part of what started that thing. So Neil and Becky,
I'm just trying to stay Switzerland. I'll buy one of each shirt.
Oh, Becky, you're TeamRae. Don't lie to our listeners.
Well, I'll send you a separate box about that.
It's okay, Becky.
I think for this podcast, I am specifically #Team Becky because Becky, you killed it. This is not your first podcast. I think you're a liar. This was so.
No, I just like to talk. Ask my husband and kids. I just like to talk.
Perfect. If you are listening to the Daily Drop-In bonus episodes that we're publishing, I'm sure you've heard a lot of Becky, but I'm hoping that this was a good lens into, Becky, your story and all that you continue to do to support educators. I want to make sure our listeners can stay connected to you outside of obviously just being connected to the team because you're so involved in so many of the professional development virtual learning options we're offering right now. But how can people stay connected?
They can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Mrs. R. Thal, and Instagram, which is Mrs. Thal's Class.
All right, that's awesome. You can find all that stuff and everything we talked about in this episode over in the show notes at teachbetter.com, including the links to make sure you connect with Becky. You can check out our blogs over there. You can get connect with her on social media. You can get connected to the Facebook group, so you can check her out in the drop-ins and just get connected with her and continue this conversation. So everything's over at teachbetter.com for that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, Becky would be really, really happy about that. So it'd be great. Let's keep taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and share this podcast with them. We'd really appreciate that as well. Becky, I'm with Ray. I think you're full of it. This was no way your first podcast. You kill it. I think it's the same thing when you talk about the videos being quote unquote out of your comfort zone. You are so good on them, and we love having you in that. I am so happy that you sent me that email.
I'm so happy you responded when you said you would.
I'm very happy that I'm a man of my word. That's good. It's great. We love having you as part of our family. And I don't want to have this thing without you anymore. So it's great. We really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for taking the time. This was kind of a impromptu one. We had to do some shifting around. We had to adjust some things. We're like, how has Becky never been on this thing? Like Ray's like, Becky's been on, right? And I'm like, I don't think so. And she's like, how is that possible? I'm like, I don't know.
Normally on Friday nights I'd be at a ball field somewhere. So
well,
this was a great time to do this.
So happy that you're able to. So just thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, for everything. I truly appreciate it. I'm so happy to be with you guys.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.